to an end, three-set loss to
Alex Eala just lost a tennis match, and somehow that's turned into one of the strangest economic stories to come out of Wimbledon in years, because within hours of her exit, resale seats for center court were reportedly showing up online at prices that made no sense, numbers so low people assumed it was a screenshot prank until more of them started appearing. Before we get to that, drop your prediction in the comments. How far does Eala go at the US Open in August, and does she crack the top 20 by the time New York is done with her? Now rewind 3 days, because you can't understand the crash without understanding the spike that caused it. On July 4th, 2026, a 21-year-old from the Philippines walked onto the most famous patch of grass in sports and beat the defending Wimbledon champion. Not a scare, not a close call that got away, an actual win, 7-6 in a tiebreak that dragged all the way to 9 points, then 6-2 in a second set where the crowd was on its feet before the final ball had even landed. That crowd wasn't just watching a match, they were watching history, because no Filipino player had ever gone this deep at a Grand Slam, and you could feel center court realize it in real time. Wimbledon's own social team knew exactly what they had. The highlight went up within the hour and started climbing past 20,000 likes almost immediately, becoming the most engaged post on their page that entire day. This is the part that gets lost when people only talk about the ticket story. Eala didn't sneak past a shaky champion having an off day. She dismantled someone with multiple major titles to her name. On the biggest stage in tennis, as a player ranked outside the top 30, that's not luck, that's a result that makes scouts recheck their notes. So naturally, the next 48 hours turned into a victory lap that felt almost scripted. Her face splashed across newspapers back home, a photo with the Princess of Wales making the rounds online, an entire nation staying up past midnight just to watch a live stream buffer on a hotel Wi-Fi connection somewhere in Dubai or Toronto or wherever the diaspora happened to be that week. And then Monday came. She walked back out, this time against a former Wimbledon finalist who'd had a rough season but was clearly finding her form again at exactly the wrong moment for Eala. There was tape wrapped around her forearm, a small preventative detail that nobody thought much of until it retroactively became a plot point people pointed to afterward. The match itself wasn't some disaster. It went 3 sets, back and forth, genuinely competitive tennis with no meltdown and no villain. Just one player finding a gear the other couldn't match down the stretch. Final score, 3 sets, and just like that, the fairy tale run was over. What happened next is the part that actually broke the internet. Clips started circulating showing center court resale tickets, the same seats that people had been fighting over 72 hours earlier, going for what looked like pocket change. Numbers that read like typos. Prices so low that comment sections filled up with people asking if it was some kind of joke, because this was the court where legends have wept after winning, now apparently worth less than a snack from the concession stand. Nobody official said a word about it. No statement from Wimbledon, no statement from the tour, and maybe that silence said more than any press release could have. Because here's the fact that makes this whole thing land differently once you dig into it. Wimbledon has run a charity resale booth for years, tucked behind one of the outer courts, where returned tickets get sold off cheap with every pound going straight to their foundation. That system isn't new, and it isn't a scandal. It's been quietly running in the background for ages. So the real story was never really about the price tag itself. It's that a mechanism nobody paid attention to suddenly became front-page internet chatter the moment one player's run ended. That's the actual headline. Not that cheap tickets existed, but that an entire fan base's presence at the tournament had become so tightly wound around one competitor that her absence made the market's temperature visible for the first time. And if you've followed tennis for more than 5 minutes, you know this isn't the first time it's happened. Remember what Emma Raducanu's US Open run did to UK viewership numbers back in 2021? It quadrupled overnight and then cooled the second she was gone. Remember Leylah Fernandez turning Arthur Ashe into a sellout building during her own surprise run that same year? Remember what a teenage Coco Gauff's Wimbledon debut did to the crowd demographics almost instantly? Every single time an underdog from a country tennis hasn't traditionally paid attention to catches fire at a major, the demand curve around them spikes and then falls right back down the moment they're eliminated. Eala didn't break some new pattern here, she confirmed an old one. And she did it against a defending champion on the most watched court in the sport, in a match the tournament's own marketing team couldn't stop replaying online. Now here's a detail worth sitting with. Martina Navratilova, someone who has won this exact tournament 9 times and has spent decades as basically a walking scouting report the rest of the sport eventually catches up to, was reportedly watching from the broadcast booth during the Paolini match. Word going around tennis circles afterward was that she pointed to Eala's serve as the one clear thing to sharpen, while praising how hard she competed against a player with a Wimbledon final under her belt. On the surface, that sounds like a small critique. But if you know how Navratilova talks about players, singling out one specific fixable weakness in a 21-year-old who just took down a multiple major champion isn't really criticism, It's closer to a promise. It's the kind of comment reserved for someone she expects to see again on that same court, deeper in the draw. And when someone with 9 titles on that grass treats you as a project worth refining rather than a fluke to forget, the reaction to your early exit stops looking like an overreaction and starts looking like the market simply catching up to what one of the greatest to ever play the game already sensed. Here's the bigger picture underneath all of this. Tennis has spent years waiting for its next major commercial wave, assuming it would come from the usual pipeline: a European Academy prospect, a Florida-trained junior working her way up the rankings. Instead, it might be coming from somewhere the sport barely markets to at all. An entire region with well over 100 million people just watched one of their own take a set off a defending Wimbledon champion in prime time. And that kind of attention doesn't just evaporate. Look at where the calendar goes next. The North American hardcourt swing kicks off in early August, starting in Montreal, moving through Cincinnati, and building straight into the US Open by the final week of the month. If Eala's projected ranking holds, she'll become the first player from the Philippines to enter a Grand Slam main draw as a seeded competitor, which is its own kind of milestone completely separate from how far she actually goes. Every tournament director on that swing is almost certainly rerunning their ticket projections right now. Every brand that watched an entire section of outer court seating turn into a sea of Filipino flags is quietly revisiting their sponsorship map. This isn't a wild guess dressed up as insight, it's just simple arithmetic once you've seen the pattern play out this many times before. Give it 12 months, and there's a real chance the conversation around Eala stops being about ticket prices entirely and becomes about which tournaments are competing hardest for the right to put her on their schedule. As for how she handled the loss itself, she didn't hide from it. She was upfront that her serve wasn't where it needed to be that day, and matter of fact about the reality that everyone has matches where their best tennis just doesn't show up, adding that the only thing actually within her control is how she shows up for the next one. And then there's the message she'd posted online 2 days earlier, right after beating the defending champion, well before she had any idea what Monday would bring. Something about how you don't need to win every single time to matter to the people watching you, and how pressure has a way of building people up rather than breaking them down.